What do you think the punishment was? Was it just more stun gun, perfectly safe stun gun? Or do you think there was more to it?
I'm pretty sure... Yes, stun guns. Hello and welcome. You're listening to the TWGOKcast, The World God Only Knows reread and rewatch podcast. I'm Aquason.
And I'm Magile.
And today we are going to discuss the third conquest arc of The World God Only Knows, the Kanon Arc. You're not going to say woo?
Woo!
Alright. So, before we begin, we always like to ask some questions, just get the conversation rolling. Magile, do you have a question for me?
You know, instead of asking you a question, I'm going to take a moment to ruin our chances of getting a Crunchyroll sponsorship and saying screw Crunchyroll. That is all.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. My question for you, I came prepared with two questions. The first question is, let's say, less serious. What are your top 15 and bottom 15 Kanon songs?
I can only name like 2.
That's fair enough. Okay, my actual question then. What do you think about idols and Japanese idol culture?
Fundamentally speaking, there's not any problem with idols. It's like most things nowadays. It's all about forming the parasocial relationship, and getting money out of people. And then you put it like that, and it sounds really bad. But it's like it's fine if people enjoy it. It's not actually that much of a problem.
All right, it's interesting because I feel like I got a better sense. I don't know if TWGOK this was the first time I encountered the concept of the Japanese pop idol, right? But I think this is one of the first ones that really gave me a sense of what it was, because it's oh, she's doing concerts and making television appearances, and there's a big adult male fan base, which is in other circumstances I feel in an American media thing it might be portrayed as creepy, but this one is portrayed relatively positively. And it was interesting. I read in between the decade or so since I watched this, decade and a half since I watched this, I found this book, this academic sociology book, about Japanese idol culture. It's called, let me scroll down.
Scroll.
I read bits of idols and celebrity in Japanese media culture, and I thought I was critical of Japanese idol culture because it's the manufactured kind of nature of it, and the purity, virginity, obsession where people send death threats and stuff. It gets kind of obsessive. But this book, oh man, they are very critical. They're the consumerist Japanese entertainment media, how it's they foment the fan culture as a way to continue to get more money, and then they discard people as soon as they age out of it. It's very, very it's not dark in the sense of oh, look at the human cruelty in it, but it's very, very cynical sociological account of it, which is very different than what happens in TWGOK here.
As far as even idols portrayal in anime, for the most part, it's generally tries to be a very positive outlook thing. Oh, this is a fun thing that you do. Like in Idol Master, for example, or what's the school one? Love Live, yeah, that one. But just recently we saw a much more negative portrayal of the idol lifestyle in Oshinoko. trying to be a bit more cynical on the topic of being an idol. I'm not sure how familiar you are with it.
Yeah, that's the one with like the reincarnation, and then like it's really strange, and then she's got the star in her eye. It's classic.
Yeah. The main character
does
does too. They each have a star actually. It's very great. I'm not actually a Yoshinoko fan. Anyways, yeah, going on.
Even though that in real life the Japanese entertainment industry is perhaps not necessarily as nice as the image it enjoys, that like it tries to portray to the fan base and to its like audiences and its consumers, are as it is in reality. It's a business. I feel like in fictional media, like in TWGOK, that does not necessarily mean I hold it against TWGOK for not being like cynical about the Japanese music entertainment industry. This story, and also I feel like because I am a fan of a lot of things which ultimately are created as a business, right? Like movies and shows and whatever. Like, I see that there are people who are genuinely really big fans of like idol stuff, and it feels like really presumptive or very like disparaging to just assume the worst and to carry that onto them. Like, these people, they are blind to like the nature of the relationship, or they are so deep within this like fan thing that they like that they're so deep within the fan thing that they can't see that it's just like a business. Like, I can still think that people can be very passionate fans of something like this, and there's still value and enjoyment to be found in something like, pop music.
So what you're saying here is you support capitalism.
Yes, sure. I support capitalism as it relates to this situation. I mean, I generally do. It's like we're gonna do our next podcast. After our Angel Beats podcast, after our Charlie Brown podcast, we'll get into some real nuanced political discussions
about the values of capitalism in our society.
About the pros and cons of capitalism. Yeah, no, okay. Maybe. Yes, 100% or 0%.
We'll put it on the list.
Sure. It's just the part of like even if it is, you see how I'm trying to like actually like get a nice conclusion to this instead of just laughing this off and then moving on. So like, we live in a society where this is a norm, and if I were to try to be critical of every single aspect of consumerism or popular life that's like touches on even these kinds of things, then I feel like it'd be a world where you cannot allow yourself to enjoy things because you are focused entirely on upholding some sort of purity of, I don't know, what do you call it, ideology?
Listen, I'm just too focused on the fact that you started the sentence with "we live in a society." You can't take anything that's said seriously after that.
You know what? Maybe I should just cut that whole question.
I'll just leave it on everything that's happened.
I'll cut it. I'll cut right after the canon question of your top 15 canon question, top 15 canon songs, and bottom 15 canon songs.
Can we splice in you supporting capitalism actually, and just that?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. Maybe.
We'll see how it turns out in post.
Yeah. So now we are here to talk about the Kanon Arc, so it's time for us to recap it. Magile, do you want to start?
Yes. got it. So, it starts off with the family gathered around the table watching. Well, not everyone's watching, but at least Elsie's watching a broadcast of an idol, a new idol. Well, I can't think of the words here.
It's like the Juno Awards, the music awards. Sorry, what's it in America?
It's bold. You think I know the answer to this?
Okay, it's an award show. For
An
best
award
new
show.
artist.
Best new artist. Is it for Idol specifically? Who knows? Anyways, it's a Miss Kanon Nakagawa that wins, and Elsie is very happy about it. And Elsie talks about how she kind of wants to be an idol. She quite is a fan of Kanon. She's wearing a bow in her hair, just like Kanon. And Kama applies with talking about how real life idols are no good, and makes a really bold Nazi allusion to get this point across. Probably wouldn't go there, but hey, it's what he does. And he tries showing about how, over time, video game idols have gotten better, whereas the real life idol, they've just stayed the same. Hence, why you should be going for the 2D, well, the video game idols. And during this discussion, of course, Mari's there, and she's like, "Oh, you need to sit down, and you need to be calm, and eat like normal."
Finish
because
eating,
she's a good mom, trying to keep her kids straight. Is there anything before they head off to the next scene?
Depending on if you're watching the anime version, they add a little scene of Elsie. She's like posing in the reflection, being like, "Yay!" And then Mary sees her, and she's like, "Oh, come to bed, or go take a bath, Kanon-chan." That happens, right?
Yes. And so I suppose the thing we should get out of the way ahead of time as we continue into this is the differences between the anime and manga versions are actually very notable going forward. The anime expands on a lot of things that happen and provide a lot more detail. So if you're just going through the manga here, you're actually missing out on quite a lot, I suppose.
Yeah, like, it's interesting because, like, early on Wakaki, he's very deliberately making these conquest arcs very short, like 4 chapters max, right? And part of that is because his previous, like his first serialization, it got canceled, like, unceremoniously before he could get into the really exciting part that he wanted to go into. So you can tell that in TWGOK, he's pacing these things very quickly, and the anime, when it's adapting things, it takes some inspiration from the Omex, for example, and it also, like, it kind of does, like, just an expanded, more deluxe version of the storylines. Some people, especially when it was airing, and if you read, like, the Japanese fans, some people were saying, like, oh, they didn't like the stretched out pacing. They felt like it was, like, filler, or it was bloated, but, like, I feel like, particularly this arc, it's like really adds to, like, the depth of it, it feels like,
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I kind of felt mildly underwhelmed as far as the manga goes, reading it immediately after watching the anime. Should we get back into the recap?
Yes. I just want to... I'm fine with just putting in some little commentary within the recap as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because the next scene is at the school, correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. And Elsie notices how there's, like, a suspicious vibe. Sus, one might say. Because there's everyone's kind of, like, anxious and waiting for something, it seems like.
And you can kind of tell that this story was written in 2008 because instead of, like, using cell phone cameras, everyone's, like, got camcorders and such.
Mm-hmm. So Elsie tries to figure out what's going on. And she's told that Miss Cannon goes to their school, actually. And, she's, due to her idle life, is busy and is not able to go there consistently. And then it cuts to Kama on the roof of the school, playing his games like he always does. When Cannon happens to walk up and just be looking out on the over the rooftops of the school.
Mm-hmm.
When she's talking to herself, just kind of amusing about things that's been going on. When she turns around and sees that this Kama is sitting there, and she's like, "Oh, someone," and then she puts on her best, idol vibe to interact, and she goes to interact with Kama, and Kama's just like, "Don't bother me, leave me alone. I'm playing a game. I don't even know who you are."
Who are you?
Yep.
Yeah.
And this, and Kanan does not particularly take this well. She's like, "Oh, I'm still somewhat new. It makes sense that, some people might not know me." But then she, pulls out her, perfectly safe stun gun, and, and shocks Kama.
Yes.
And
then
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so they she tases him, stun guns him. Taser is trademarked. She shocks him, and then Kama, he tries to run away, and he's so concerned about his save game data more than the pain, honestly. And he gets shocked repeatedly until Elsie manages to come up onto the roof, and she's like, "Oh my god, it's Kanon! I need something to sign this." And she takes Kama's PFP from him and then hands it over to Kanon so that she can autograph it. And Kanon, she's been recomposed now that Elsie is recognizing her as the pop idol and "Oh, I'm such a huge fan. Your songs, they touch my heart." And such like that. And then Elsie turns to Kama, and she's like, "Kami ni-sama, Neve-sama, why didn't you ever tell me that Kanon is in our class? She's in the same class as us." And then that breaks something in Kanon, because not even her classmate recognized her, and she tases Kama again.
So, Kanon's now kind of dead set on the fact that she's upset about Kama not knowing who she is, and she specifically says, "I will defeat you," and tries to get and gets Kama's name, and is like, "You need to come back tomorrow. We need to
settle this."
Yeah, so she's like, "I'm gonna defeat you. What's your name?" And Kama's like, "I don't want to have to deal with this anymore." And of course, this is what Elsie mentions. By the way, it's a loose soul there. So Kanon's the next person that you're gonna have to go after. And Kama is understandably not interested in doing this. He's like, "Hey, maybe we could just not. It's fine." Ignoring the stakes at hand.
So, then, in the anime, we then get to see this, montage of Kanon's, daily life set to, Love Kanon, which is this song. Please buy the CD, folks. We're advertising this song through the anime. Buy the CD. And it's, a very nice piece. We get to see her go through all sorts of things, filming commercials, filming, appearances in TV shows, signing autographs, her reach. She's a big star. She's on blimps and stuff. And then we return to Elsie. She is reading this magazine, this idol magazine, and giving information about Kanon, who she is, how tall she is, blah, 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 that information. And Kama and Elsie, they are making their way to class on the new day, and Keima is still like trying to refuse to not do this. He's insistent, particularly because she wiped his save data by tasering him. Sorry, stun gunning him. Perfectly safe stun gunning him. And then he finds a CD case has been slipped into his desk, and written on the liner notes in the back of it is a message, or on the front of it is a message addressed to Keima, telling him in a very scrawled and very, very difficult to redraw page that please come to the roof. Otherwise, if you don't, you'll be punished. And so Keima goes up to the rooftop, and Kanon, she set up a thing. She whips off her overcoat in a dramatic fashion to reveal her performing outfit underneath, and she sings a song to Keima to beat him, to prove to him, I don't know, to make him a fan. You know?
Yeah. Can I tangent us real quick?
Sure.
What do you think the punishment was? Was it just more stun gun, perfectly safe stun gun? Or do you think there was more to it?
I'm pretty sure. Yes, stun guns. It's funny.
Do you think she... Oh, go ahead.
It's funny to me that, like, I've been working on Wakaki's latest manga series, which the first chapter isn't out yet in English, and I'm trying to get it out in English. And it's a very different, like, vibe and style of comedy. So going back to TWGOK here, the fact that she pulls out stun guns and, like, zaps him, and it's a lot more slapstick and over the top, it's, like, very amusing to me. And also, in the Omex, it's like, this is a canon thing. This isn't just, like, a, like, joke for the sake of a joke. Like, they bring, like, there's other jokes where she's, like, buying stun guns in the Omex. And the anime, they make the stun guns, like, cat-themed, which is very hilarious to me.
Do you think Can's just a big fan of cats? Was that the vibe?
I think the anime directors just wanted to have some fun. And it made it funny.
That makes sense. I can agree with that. So do we want to continue with Kanon's performance of All For You?
Yeah. It's her new song, the first time she's singing it. And, okay, Magile, here's your chance. Which of these... Actually, we'll save it for the end, actually, because we got 3 songs you can rate. Right?
There's 4 in the anime.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I don't know the name of one of them.
Okay. Fair enough. Anyway, she sings All For You. Keima is... he's listening, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna win him over. This is gonna work." And it cuts to Keima, and like he's just there, unimpressed, cool, flows by as a very fun sound effect, and she breaks out the stun guns again, and Keima, he's scared. He like starts dodging, right? Or is that
that's
later?
Now. That's now.
That's
yeah,
on
I believe that's now. Yeah,
that's now. Okay. Elsie is here too. She like was snuck up onto the roof to listen, and then other people eventually show up later. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, this gets resolved by the fact that Keima survives the encounter barely, and Kanon, she gets a phone call, and like a helicopter flies to pick her up because she needs to get to her next recording session or something.
I think the funny part about this is she was like, keep this a secret, and then she's like, helicopter, come grab me.
That is true. And then, you know, that's that day over. And then I think we hard cut to the next day, right? Or is it something else?
Well, I mean, Elsie does comment on why, hey, you know, she's trying to, you know, if we're trying to do the League Soul thing, why are you not going after her? And Keima's like, because it would be a trap. If it dings him, you're supposed to be going after the girl. If the girl comes after you, you're just falling into an obvious trap.
Anyway, it's the yandere thing, where it's like, you know, the girl's pursuing you. And in that little sequence, one thing I really liked the anime did is that they put Pac-Man sounds of like when Keima is chasing the girl or chasing the little chibi cannon, and then when it flips, they do the Pac-Man noise of like when the ghosts get the fruit, or when the Pac-Man gets the power pellet, and then it gets reversed, and it's a very like funny little small Easter egg gag.
Do you know the name of the ghost from Pac-Man?
Yes, Inky, Binky, Pinky, and Clyde.
Okay, good enough.
What do you mean good enough?
Well, moving on. That's what I mean.
Okay, I thought you were gonna correct me. I thought you were gonna say, actually, it's Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde. And I would be like,
it's not worth the effort, you know.
Okay.
We can save this for the Pac-Man podcast.
That seems like a lot of podcasts we're committing to. Well, I think we need to. I don't think the Pac-Man podcast.
We'll cut that one out. We'll cut that out. Pac-Man podcast not happening. Moving on. Next scene. Is that good?
Next scene. Isn't it the next day where she's gonna sing another song to him?
Well, no, so it starts with the I think they're at home afterwards because it's when Kanon's performing at the studio, and she shows off her pet turtle. Actually,
right. Kitaro. This is a talk trivia fun fact.
The name of Kanon's turtle. Okay.
Yes, this was one that I used in. I think it was like the second.
Do you think did anyone get this? Do you know? I have to remember. I don't remember at all.
People got close, but they mixed up the A and the I. Instead of Kitaro, I think they did Katiro or something.
This one I feel is actually one of the more notable differences. That's like, other than the big story differences, the anime really expands on the scene because it's just like, oh, Kanon's kind of off today in the manga, whereas during the actual performance we see what's kind of going on with Kanon, and I've been waiting to mention this. She just kind of gets one guide. Are you familiar with getting one guide?
I don't know what that means.
So it's typically used to refer to when you're a Twitch streamer, how there'll be one guy in chat who says something, and it throws you completely off the rails. It's exactly what's happening to Kanon. Everybody's loving her.
Okay,
she sees one guy
just checking his phone.
Yep, and it's honestly the entire arc is Kanon getting one guide, just repeatedly, and it ruins her. She can't handle it. And
it causes her to stumble, and then she recovers enough to not make it terrible, but she gets talked to by her manager afterwards, right?
Yep. Because then after that, it goes to the next day.
Yes. And does she even sing a new song, or is it just the same song?
It's Happy Crescent.
It doesn't
next.
really matter. I'm just curious because I feel like you said 4 songs.
Okay, well, this because we got all for you to begin with, previously.
No, Love Kanon.
Well, Love Kanon. Then we got All for You, and then we got because this time's Happy Crescent.
Okay, sure. This is it.
Yeah. Because
so 3 songs.
Well, so there's a 4th song later in the anime.
Yeah.
But anyway,
sorry.
Cool. It's cool. So then she does a fantastic performance of Happy Crescent, and she's like, "This is gonna sell him on it. He's gonna love it. This is gonna change him over." And then Keima's asleep.
This is gonna make you a Kanon stan right here.
And then Keima's just completely asleep. Like this, it was so boring. He just passed out. And this gets Kanon to kind of go explain more what's going on, because she feels so dejected by the fact that Keima wasn't listening and that she fell asleep. It's how she felt invisible, which causes her to actually become invisible. And Keima and Elcio
this is the first time we see, some magical stuff happening from the runaway spirits.
Yeah, because while we've had, acting out, this is the first, real supernatural thing that's happening.
Yeah. And then, it's a chapter cliffhanger or a episode cliffhanger. Next episode, we pick it up. And it's kind of funny that, Kane was like, don't be ridiculous. She can't have disappeared or gone invisible or whatever. And then it's like, oh, she Actually, she's kind of transparent. She's still there. But it's basically, there's no difference, really. This literally is magic happening in real life from the spirit we learn later on. And Keima, like, as Kanon is, like, in despair over the fact that people are not seeing her, are not noticing her, Keima goes up to her and tells her, like, no, I was paying attention. I heard your song. And then she gets really pissed because she's like, you were sleeping? And he just has to do some quick dodges in order to avoid those perfectly safe stun gun strikes. And then it's like backs up. She eventually hits the tree, cutting it, like tasering it in half. But Keima then saves himself by saying that your performance was so beautiful that it sent me to nirvana, put me in heaven. I was in such a state, and that's why it looked like I was sleeping. And it's enough to pacify Kanon for that bit, to where she walks away and I'm not sure what she says. I think she just walks away, right?
I think this time she's like, come back tomorrow again. But then because this is the one where she goes off and gets busy, so she doesn't actually able to do it.
Oh, right. And then I remember this because at that point it was like, Keima is like, he manages to survive. He didn't get tasered this time. Perfectly safe stun gunned. And Elsie is like, why are you ignoring her? And he does a bit about the importance of learning about your target's problems, their personal issues. They're like your ultra rares, is what I translated it as. The
anime says ace in the hole, I believe.
Oh, okay. And I can't even remember where I was going with that. They do different. The anime always also continuously like expands these like one-off pages to be like full like imagination sequences, which are fun. I find them really fun. Oh my god! Please say something.
I'm here. I'm here. Don't worry. I'm alive. I didn't die.
Okay. Now please say more. While I blow my
I'm trying to think about how, because it's okay. The issue is this is where I feel like things start splitting apart more as the anime expands on things. Because like in the manga, it's just like, oh hey, by the way, Kanon has my thing to message me, and she starts messaging him about it. Whereas
he put the CD back into her pocket or something.
Yeah, a very reasonable explanation as to what happened. Sorry. Yeah. So.
Okay, I can. Pick it up.
Sorry.
I've blown my.
I'm sorry. This was a rough one.
Okay. Sure. So, let me just get into it. So after Kanon leaves and Elsie and Keima have that exchange about the importance of learning about your targets, like personal issues, he's like ready to go on the attack, and we cut to the next day, and Kanon isn't there, and Keima is really pissed. Turns out she was too busy to go there, to the roof. So I think it's later on the day after, or the chronology doesn't exactly matter. But instead, she has Keima meet her at the at like the filming location or whatever, and she has become invisible because of her despair. So, and when Keima tells her that, like, I forget exactly what she asked, like, are my songs good? And he's like, yeah. And then she's like, oh, thank goodness. She, like, colors immediately. She's visible. I'm so happy. And she's like, phew, that was such a relief. I was feeling a little bit down. It's been a while since I felt a little bit down like that. And Keima is, like, surprised because it seemed like she was, like, that's a very huge understatement, considering how, like, depressed she got over just, like, a small thing, and how overjoyed she gets just from, like, him just saying that. And she asks him if she can talk to him more, because she doesn't have a lot of friends at school. She's always, busy with work. She doesn't have a lot of time to actually attend classes. And Keima says yes, and then he immediately gets, like, an email with, like, it's just repeatedly thank you or whatever.
Thanks.
And then over the next several days, Kanon repeatedly keeps calling him out to meet her 36 times a day. And it wears Keima out really hard.
Just anytime she has a problem. Like how she can't swim.
Yeah. I think you should complain to the, I don't know, director, production assistant to get, like, a flotation device or something. If that's anyway. One thing that I do like about the anime in this case is they add a scene where Kanon calls him out to, like, a cafe in the city, and she's like, "Oh no, I just wanted to spend time with you," and, like, it wasn't an issue. I thought that was actually really kind of nice.
Yeah, no, it was Kanon being positive, which is a nice break from her being very, like, needy.
Like, I feel like this is one of the benefits of the anime being able to expand these stories. Like, it allows to show more complexity and depth and to build that relationship a little more than the strict plot beats it needs to hit in order for the conquest to work,
Yep.
Anyway, this goes on until she meets him one more time outside of Narusawa Hall, which is this big concert venue in the city of Narusawa, which is a neighboring city to Majima. And she is there because she wanted to show Keima her concert outfits to him. But he is busy playing his PFP. She's like, I can't believe you're not even listening. But then she sees that he's actually listening to her song on his PFP.
Ooh.
And she's so overjoyed and, like, happy. She feels like a huge amount of relief and happiness that Keima, while he does not want to admit it, he seems to enjoy her songs. And then, as they depart, Elsie, she, like, floats down, and she's like, oh wow, the way that you, was it patted her head, or was it, like, from telling her that she was good? Whatever, it was like you kissed her.
Whoa.
Like, I'm sure this is gonna be it. And then, dun dun dun, suddenly things seem to go wrong. Kanon is missing.
So in the anime, I guess one of the things we notice is they've been using random musical notations as, like, that just pop up on the screen to describe the scenes that are happening. I'm assuming you're familiar with what I'm talking about.
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Because so I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what most of them were, so I took the opportunity to go look them up. Because, like, previously when, like, Kanon was being ignored, previously he played piano, because, like, soft. And then, now
Yes.
we got a segno, which is marking the end, and that's the same time that Kanon was like, I can see the ending.
Do you actually want me to go into a little bit depth in here? Because I used to be in a concert band just in high school.
I mean, yeah, you probably know a lot better than me. I just Googled. Go ahead, shoot.
Sure. So, like, they use P and then PP and then PPP, which is piano, pianissimo, pianissimo. It just means, like, soft. It means, like, quiet. And that's when she's fading away. And then here they use the del segna. No, they use the symbol for, like, the which, like, marks the music sheet. Like, typically that's near the end, but then in the next episode they do a really cool thing where when it flashes back to show Kanon's perspective of what's happening, they use DS, which means del segno, return to the sign. So it's basically like, I'm trying to explain the music notation to you. If you imagine the music notation and it goes, line by line by line, at some point you put a symbol there, right? Yep. And that's like a checkpoint. Mm-hmm. And then once you hit a thing that says DS, it says go back to that checkpoint and play it again. Except when it says DS in the show, that means go back and show what's Kanon's perspective of what's happening at that time.
I mean, that makes sense. Musical notation.
And they also use prestissimo, which is the fastest tempo, the fastest beats per minute of music in concert when we reach the climax. That's what it shows.
So moving into the next episode of the anime, because it cuts off a cliffhanger with Kanon being missing.
Also the next chapter.
Yeah, also the next chapter, but the thing I'm talking about is anime specific, which is the main reason why I was bringing up the anime. Okay. Because something we haven't really mentioned yet is Citron. And yes. The anime does a nice opening where it's Kanon's former group singing their song, and it's just
Slime and Yuri.
Yeah, Slime and Yuri. It's just them singing it, and then it cuts into the opening, and I thought that was really nice, and I wanted to mention it. And I think in general, Citron's inclusion is very good in the anime.
Yeah, there was a part in some of the previous episode we glanced over that was Elsie, she goes to try to talk to Kanon at the recording studio, the TV studio, but she gets kicked out after nailing a 10-point landing. And she meets the Kanon fan club, which are these group of geeks and this old man who are big Kanon fans and Kanon supporters, which come up here because as part of this anime element, we're introduced earlier that Kanon used to be part of a girl group, or is that what they called? Because it's called a boy band and a girl group, I'm pretty sure. It's
not a girl band? Okay.
And yeah, she no longer performs in Citron songs, and we've established that the group that she used to be part of, the group that she used to be part of disbanded on kind of a negative edge, or on a negative kind of note. And then this is what the anime kind of builds its climax around.
Yep. So because we get to Cam and Elsie, they're like, okay, well, we need to be the ones to find Kanon. And they're both how are we gonna find him? Because she's gonna be invisible. And they're like, okay, well, we just need to check everywhere then. So that was the initial plan. They're just running around trying to check as many places as possible.
Can I step in here for a second?
Yes.
Sure. One thing that I like about placing this Kanon arc after the Sora arc is because that's literally what we've established Kama does with when he had to do with the Sora thing. Literally just go through every option and every permutation of options. And here, the thing he says is I'm just going to have to try every choice or try every selection. And I translate it as brute force every path. And Elsie's what does that mean? And then he's that means we're just going to check everywhere.
It's a good bit.
Yeah. And I think it's just a neat way to tie in, make these things kind of feel connected,
In the anime, one of the funny bits while they're looking for Kanon is, Elsie goes off by herself and she runs into the Kanon fan group again. And they're oh, they have a nickname for her, don't they?
Nakanon. N-A, her first name is Nakagawa, so Naka, and then no, other way around. Kanon's her first name.
Well, I meant for Naka, Elsie, because they run in they call her a nickname of some kind.
I honestly do not remember.
It was an anime only thing, so I don't blame you. Anyways, they're like, "Oh, hey, Elsie, what are you doing?" And Elsie's like, "Oh yeah, I'm looking for Kanon." And they're like, "Why are you looking for Kanon? She should be in the venue." She's like, "Oh yeah, I probably shouldn't be telling people that she's missing. Okay, never mind." Uh, um, but eventually,
Anyway,
yeah,
some time passes.
and
The sun has set down further.
yes, it's nighttime now, and the concert's almost time to start. And Elsie and Kim are back together, and they're like, "Oh, we've checked everywhere, we can't find her. What are you gonna do?" And that's when Elsie has a brilliant idea, and they're like, "Oh, I marked I marked her down with the loose soul sensor. Even if she's invisible, we can still use this to find her." And Kim was like, "Why didn't you mention this earlier?"
We've been doing this for hours. Anyway,
so she they use it, and then Ken's just like right next to him.
yeah, it's interesting because Elsie uses it, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Okay, I'm getting a signal," and she moves away, and it turns out Kanon's just been sitting beside him for however long it's been.
Yeah. Because I feel wasn't one of the things about how Kanon was trying to find Kama in the first place.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's big like moment for Kama and Kanon right now, as they finally meet up again, and Kama like notices, he like says that he sees her, and she like stops being invisible, and she asks Kama, she like hugs him, and she's like, "I need you, please always be with me. I can do it as long as I have you with me," right? And she leans in to like kiss him, and then Kama refuses. In like he says "cop out" in the English dub, which I love, which I used in the Japanese scanlation I did for it. And it's like she's like, "What?" And he's like, "You can't, like, you shouldn't need other people to affirm your own existence." And like he rejects falling into the like, "I'll always be there for you. It's okay, right? It's okay. I'll always be there with you." To like really push back against her and like tell her that she needs to be able to stand on her own and like be confident, even if there are people who like aren't paying attention to her, or even if he's not there supporting her, you know?
Yep.
And like she's like taken aback. She's like, "I can't do this." But then Kama, he points out to like there's the roar of the cheering crowd in the stadium demanding they want to see Kanon, you know? And he's like, "You've already like proven yourself, right? Like you don't like, you did that all by yourself." And like he says like, I can't keep you to myself." And like she's like, this actually like really, it gets through to Kanon, and she's like, she would have been happy just having one person, or like a person she could sing to, which implies like Kama or whatever. But then she like says like, "Later," and then she goes up, kisses him, and then goes back to do her concert performance as the loose soul sprouts out. And the loose skull gets captured, and then she starts her big concert.
Woo!
And yeah, they do a big musical number, which works a lot better in anime, where you can actually see music than just panels of, you know, nothing like posing. It's very nice.
That's when we get our fabled fourth Kanon song in the anime.
Yes. And then the anime really extends that afterwards. She does an encore. She does a second set of her song, you know. She's not just sing one song. But this is basically the climax, right? They do the song as kind of like we capture the loose soul. It's kind of a celebratory kind of thing. Kama, he's in the crowd listening to her for the first song. And as like Elsie and Kama are discussing this, she's like, "So, Divine One, Kami-ni-sama. Have you changed your mind about idols? And Keima, he's still his prickly self, and he's like, no, I still don't think real idols are better. But she's not an idol anymore. She's a shining star.
Aww.
And then we kind of close it on that. And that was our recap. It was a little bit difficult, but we got through it.
We got there.
So, any thoughts?
So I think the Kanon arc is the first arc that really feels like the like we got a lot of direction as to where TWGOK was going as a series. It's the first really, I feel like, lengthy arc that covers a lot, more than just pretty basic themes like we got with Mio. There's a lot of very personal concepts that happen with Kanon. A lot of her like self-doubt is pretty, realistic in how it's dealt with, and I think, she gets over it in a pretty apt way. It's why I feel like, this is the real, turning point in front. I feel TWGOK's really just, it found its footing and it's going good.
And the anime fans definitely agreed with it, because this is the part where they started to sell a ton of music CDs.
Wonder why?
Like in the manga, right? The Shiori arc is where like a ton of fans like really started noticing the series. In the anime, it's the Kanon arc where like it built up a huge fan base for that specific character.
That makes a lot of sense. So do you want to dip into, different things about the episode?
Sorry, settings?
Just different things about the episode.
Oh, different things.
We can talk about the settings if you want, though. What's your favorite setting from this episode? Or this arc?
I really like the dark, night lit, like where the snow's falling on Narisawa Hall, as where Keima and Kanon are. It's a very cool setting.
I'm always a fan of the school rooftops. They're a classic. The tree has a bow on it now after it got injured. I think that's a nice set piece. Anyways, moving off of settings.
I'm surprised you managed to recover, because I thought you were going to flounder after I managed to quickly figure out a way to counter.
Okay.
Anyway, I've got, as always, I've got a lot of notes, and I'm not sure where I want to start. But maybe this one, okay? So, have you read any TWGOK fanfiction before, Magile?
The answer is probably yes, but I wager it would have probably been, ages ago. I feel like there was definitely a period where I had, where TWGOK and fanfiction crossed over in my life.
Okay. So, because one thing I was, that I'm kind of conscious of, I've tried to write TWGOK fanfiction before, and I've read, a number of TWGOK fanfics, and I think what this episode, or this arc kind of establishes, is, one of the core elements of TWGOK is the interpersonal human, problem in nature and, resolution, that kind of thing. The emotional heart of it is very human, but then you also have a sprinkling of magical intrigue. Whether it's, Kanon turning invisible, or Elsie performing some magical kind of stuff, or, that kind of thing. In later arcs, we see other ways that the Blue Soul manifests, or other ways that Elsie, uses her magical powers to create things. But TWGOK kind of needs, a good TWGOK story includes some of that, just as, a way to make it more fantastical, more interesting.
So, what website do you post your TWGOK fanfiction on? We need to go check it out after the podcast.
I have never written a full chapter. It's all still on my computer and on my phone in, various unfinished drafts.
Okay, so if you ever see Aqua in person, make sure to steal his laptop so you can read his fanfiction for TWGOK.
I prefer not to have my computer stolen, please and thanks.
Well, you can steal your phone instead if you want.
You got me there. Okay, what about any points from you?
Yes.
We can alternate?
Yes, absolutely. So the first thing I think I want to mention I don't know how intentionally this was set up, or it was more just something that was called back upon, as the opportunity arose. But early on in the episode, Elsie really wants to be an idol. And, specifically canon, I suppose, and that's something that comes back later on, in the Goddess arc when she has to take the role of canon for a long period of time.
Yes, and specifically in Goddess arc, it's because she's like such an obsessive fan of canon. She knows all the dance moves and all the songs.
Do you think it was like an intentional setup, like Wakak had everything thoroughly planned out into the future, or it was just like, no, this just makes sense, let's run with it, when the time Goddess arc was being written?
So the way that I know that Wakaki writes is that he has ideas of like the endings that he wants to reach, but it's not like fully planned out in a sense. It's a little bit improv. It's a little bit like building up pieces which later on you'll fill in and you'll find new connections and such.
Got it. Okay.
That reminds me though. So you're speaking of Goddess Arc, and I think so. This actual anime adaptation was coming out in the same time period as the start of manga Goddess Arc. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And so, they have foreknowledge of like Apollo and such, and I think that makes this in the anime they had this part where Kanon's reflection of her previous self is like talking to her, and like it's like being very like critical. Her self-doubt is manifesting in like kind of like a hallucination, and it's really creepy. It's done really well, and I think in universe it recontextualizes a bit and adds to why canon in Goddess Arc is so dismissive of like Apollo. She doesn't think it's real or whatever because she's gone through a very similar thing that's happened to her before. Her reflection talking to her.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That was just me building on your point, so I'm actually going to go on to a thing here.
Shoot.
This is a minor thing, but in the opening bit with when Elsie first goes to school and everyone's like taking photos and like Kanon's back in school kind of thing, the person that is sitting next to Chihiro when they tell Elsie that Kanon has come to school, that is a character from Wakaki's previous manga.
I didn't know that.
Yep. Her name is Mappy.
I don't like that name, but she's fine.
You don't like Mappy?
It's not a particularly great name, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay. I was going to say, on that note, you know what? Okay, I'll just say it, because it's not important. But Wakaki actually does that a lot. He builds in, like, if there are character designs from a previous thing which weren't like popular, he'll reuse the character design because he's like, cool, I'll reuse it, you know? Or like, if there's characters from a previous work which were like, minor characters, he'll bring them back in a later work as like another background character in another setting. Like I must have talked about this, but the delinquents, the 3 My High delinquents who like beat him up in the Kusunoki arc, they were originally from his previous serialization, Holy Crystal Albatross.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you wish to expand on this point further, or should I take over with for another random, far less interesting thing?
Okay, go ahead.
What's Kanon's natural hair color?
Good question.
Do you have an answer to it?
Moving on?
Okay. No, just moving on? Okay, yeah, understandable. Go ahead.
Listen. In TWGOK, we establish that, this is like the real world, quote unquote. People have natural hair colors of brown or black in Japan. So presumably, Kanon's hair color is not naturally pink. But, she's like an idol, that makes sense. But, it's never brought up, it's never made a big deal of. I could like bring up some interesting points about how just in order to make the characters stand out from each other in the manga color pages, you typically like does like a bluish black and like a different types of brown and black to give like more purpley some to like try to do. But otherwise, there's no answer here, Miguel. You're asking me a question with no answer.
Well, I thought you just knew everything TWGOK related, and you did the best you could given the information you're working with. So I guess I have to be happy with that.
Let me see. Do you want to hear a bunch of I can machine gun some trivia for you, and you can give me like a score out of 10 for how interesting it is.
Yeah, fire.
Okay. Beautiful Venus Dedicated. There's this magazine in the manga. It was such a pain to typeset and redraw. But it was reused, that design and that magazine name was used for this like art print in the limited edition for the actual Kanon first album.
3 out of 10.
Lower affections of the other girls. So you remember that point when Kama's talking about how it's a trap? Watch out. If a flag seems a little too appetizing, it's probably poison. And he mentions that, for example, she could lower the affections of other girls. This is kind of a reference to games like Tokimeki Memorial, where they have like a jealousy mechanic. And if you like raise the affection or spend too much time with a girl who isn't the girl that you're also otherwise like building a relationship with, then they can cause their relationships to go down dramatically.
5.5 out of 10.
Cop out. I love that like translation. They used whoever did the subtitles there. Great job. The original Japanese is be, which is just like a child, just like stick out your tongue kind of thing. Cop out is so much cooler.
I agree with you, but this is actually really boring. I'm giving it a 2.
See ya. So this is a very minor thing, but Kanon, whenever she says goodbye, she used like a very casual one, like later or see ya. And I tried to consistently translate it for here as later, later. And I did this specifically because if I ever did a retranslation of the end of Goddess Arc, I wanted to have Chihiro say see ya.
7, I think. That's mildly interesting.
Okay. The translator for Love Kanon does a really good job making the translated lyrics sound appropriate to what's being said. At one point, she says, watashi wo mite ne, which means, like, look at me. And they translate it as watch me now, which is, like, watashi, watch, mite, me, ne, now. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like it sounds right as you're reading it. It feels good.
That's a 6. I value the vibe.
In the montage, you see Kanon recording her lines for the game girl from Mio's arc with the tsundere. The blue-haired one. Do you remember?
Yes. I'm not just saying
it's
that.
Cool.
Rating.
Okay.
4.
Wow. You're a tough crowd sometimes, Miguel.
The toughest crowd.
There's a great visual gag with how the rain cloud pouring over Kanon after she gets rejected by Kama, like for not listening or whatever. It's actually like a prop rain cloud that's suspended on like a rod. Did you ever notice that?
I wouldn't say actively, but I definitely am like, yeah, that makes sense. When I was staring at it in the manga, it did seem kind of weird. Anyways, is that the end of the fact?
Yes.
Okay. 6.
Okay. I'll do a final one. I didn't. It wasn't assigned reading to this for this one, but in the manga volume, there's the omics, which establish Citron as a thing, and then the anime took that and like this backstory of Citron is actually canon to the manga, but it's just like not a delved into deep thing. Like in the manga, part of the reason why Citron like broke up is because originally Lime was supposed to be the main girl, like the star, but Kanon was much more popular, and then she like launched her solo career, while Citron just like the other two just didn't catch on.
Hmm. I mean,
Did you read that omic?
no.
You don't remember reading that omic.
I mean, I probably read it when I first read through TWGOK, like, ages ago.
Okay.
I should be reading these, though. Well, I guess I should. But I mean, the issue I have with the fact is it's kind of stuff that's like, it's like, oh, it's in the manga, but now it's in the anime. It's like, okay, but I kind of already knew about it. That's why I'm kind of a harsh critic.
So the fact is just that the thing that's in the anime is also in the manga.
Yeah,
It's just
actually,
not
that's a terrible
in the
fact.
manga itself.
1 out of 10.
Oh. Oh, okay. Okay, Magile, your turn.
Okay, so pivoting off of this, off of Citron being in the manga, I'm a Citron fan. Okay, all the canon songs, those are garbage. I'm a fan of the song we hear for Citron. That's my jam.
Koi yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Yeah, damn, I want to say it. I can't believe you stole that from me. Anyways,
That song, like, okay, I give so much credit to the anime because that song is so good, and the fact that they made, like, they did not have to make a full separate song just for this, like, thing. And in the anime episode, they play like 30-40 seconds of it, right, or something. It's just like every character, the 3 girls, they each sing like the opening line for it in the like cold open.
Yep.
And then, but they made like a full song for it, and they included it not for direct sale. You had to buy the first, like the limited edition for the Blu-rays of this, of like the Kanon Arc. Like, it's only 2 episodes. It's not even the full Kanon Arc. It's garbage, the Japanese anime, like, buying industry. It's terrible. But anyway, they made this full song, and it's so good. It's like, definitely my top Kanon songs.
It's one of the only TWGOK songs that's not an opening I have in my phone.
I've got some other stuff, but a lot of it's unremarkable. Manglobe, they're a really good animation studio.
They were a good animation studio.
Oh, damn, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say?
I guess, we've been pretty positive, so I gotta bring down the tone just a little bit. Gotta even things out, nice and balanced. There's one of my big issues, I guess I'd say, with the actual anime adaptation is so much time is actually just spent listening to Kanon sing. Oh my goodness. We get, like, across, like, the 3 episodes, there's, like, a solid, like, 12 minutes of just Kanon singing, I feel like.
Buy the CDs, folks.
Yeah.
Buy these songs.
Buy the songs.
Ooh. I think it is beneficial. Like, there are parts in the actual story where there was originally singing, and it's like, it's just not that impactful just to be like, oh, this text box says all for you, right? And you're like, wow, that she's singing a song, definitely. But I agree that, like, for example, at the ending, she plays, like, Love Call, which is, like, the big, sweeping, dramatic final piece. And then afterwards, she does another song, as, like, the credit song. Which, I don't know if that was really necessary. It's a lot of singing. But also, it really helped Nao Toyama start her career, like her voice acting career, on a really good note. She got a lot of positive, like, fame and, like, oh, this girl, she's a really good singer. So, maybe it was alright that she was overexposed.
Do you know who voices Kanon in the dub?
It's the same girl who voices Chihiro in season 2. Kowalski?
It's Brittany Karbowski.
Yes.
Good job. Do you know who voices her in French?
Yeah. Christine something?
According to the thing I'm looking at, it's Elise Guillemette.
Damn it. Yeah. Okay, so, before we get to the episode rating and not rating of the songs in this, of the Kanon songs we've heard, what's your ranking?
Am I including Koyu Shiki Onegai Shimashu in this?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's number 1.
Yes.
The you said Love Call was the name of the one from the last.
Love Call's the slow one.
Yeah, that's the slow one. That's probably number 2.
Okay.
Okay, then we got Love Canon, All For You, and Happy Crescent are the other 3.
Yes.
I think All For You is super overplayed. I think it's going to take 5th in this.
Okay.
Let's go Love Canon 3, and the Happy Crescent 4. I'm locking it in. Final answer.
Solid list. I can't really disagree with you. Except I would put the sweeping one, Love Call. I'm not actually a big sweep fan. I put it like at 5 or 4.
Oh, okay. You just shift that down. Everything else accurate. Got it.
Okay. So that was that. Now for the rating, not rating. Do you want me to start or should you start?
Oh, you need to start if you're not rating.
Okay. Yeah, I think the Kanon Arc is really good. Like, I think what always gets me because I've gone back to the Kanon Arc repeatedly. Like, I redid a manga scanlation of it because the original one was so bad, right? What really gets to me and what really sticks out to me is that moment when Keima rejects the easy solution of like the love that seems like obvious and apparent of being like, yeah, just kiss the girl and like it'll work, right? But he refuses, and then like he forces her to confront the issue instead of taking the easy road. And this gets built up in later chapters of TWGOK when it talks about how Keima's use of love is different than other cases because like it never, like unlike other cases of love where the gap reemerges, his gaps have never reemerged from the conquest that he's done. And when I go back to this arc, like I enjoy the music, I enjoy like these moments. I really liked in the anime when Kanon calls him out to the cafe and they just have a moment together, and it's like surprising. But that moment in the climax where the snow is falling and he rejects her and he says cop out, it just sticks to me so much, and I'm like, oh, this is where I'm like, wow, TWGOK like knows how to like not just tell like, oh, you know, a love story, but like the really hone in on this idea of the character drama and what you need to do and dealing with these problems, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's all I got.
Okay, so then for my rating of the episode, I'd give it a solid A for Idol.
Oh my god, no, really? That
Yes.
doesn't even work. That only works if you're writing ramenized Japanese. That's so
Don't worry
bad.
about it. You're fine. It works. Don't worry.
All right. So if that is everything we want to talk about, yeah. Next time will be then the LC Cake Arc. Dealing with in the anime.
Remember to buy the CDs.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for talking with me, Mikhail.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.